back, Roshfooco watches and things. Seiko SRP311, as we all know, dropping that street name, Monster, for good reason. This was my my first ever Seiko Monster, and since then I've only owned Gen 1 or Gen 2 like these ones. I haven't had any experience of the Gens 3s, 4s or even the new ones. I guess they're Gens 5, so I'm not going to comment on those. But this is a Gen 2 Monster with those incredible hour indexes. The SRP311 being the all PVD black with orange colour scheme, and I guess if you like matching your watches to your bastardized commercial holidays, it's a good one for Halloween. So this one was a 2012 release. I think this one is actually a May of 2012 manufacture date on this as well, and the basic specs are 42-ish across the bezel, 47.5 lug to lug, 13, just over 13 to a slightly domed crystal with a 20mm lug width, even though you can see the stock bracelet actually flares out to 23mm, but the lug opening is actually 20mm there. As mentioned, 316L stainless steel with a PVD black covered case, bezel, crown, bracelet, although case back and the interior of the clasp are plain stainless steel, as they are on most PVD coated watches. Let's look at that bezel. This striking, glossy, industrial cog of a bezel. Well, that's what it looks like to me, even though I've had a couple of people say it looks like a flower to them, but a fairly brutal flower if it is one. Solid stainless steel. There is no insert in here. The markers are engraved, carved out of a steel block there. Obviously with a loom pip, and it's got these deep gouges around the bezel, which means it's impossible not to grip, really. But having said that, you can only grip it between kind of 130-ish and 3, and about 730 to 10-ish, because of the semi-shrouding that you get on the kind of north and south of the watch. The bezel's got a slight wobble in it, which is disappointing. I've had other monsters with better bezels than that, but it does line up very well for a Seiko, and it's a shame we have to say these things, but of course, you know, because Seiko QC being Seiko QC, this is just about this watch. You can never say what a line of watches, what they're going to be like, because each one's different, because Seiko QC is so random. Let's get into the bracelet. Seiko, well, standard Seiko Monster Fair really. Branded fold over, double push button deployant. Just a press clasp, but 4 micro adjusts, and pretty sleek and slender really. It does taper from, well, it goes up from 20 to 23 with that flare out, but then it does taper down to about 18 at the clasp. But you will notice that there is a fairly, I mean, it's a fairly unsightly jump down from a 20mm link to an 18mm link, which is a strange design choice. It doesn't really affect me too much, but I know that some people don't really like that. And we do actually have a diver's extension as well. Yes, it's a little tinny, but it is a ISO certified diver, so fair play to that. A word of warning about the links: they are pin and collar on a Monster bracelet, so if you don't know how to deal with that, if you don't want to spend the money taking it to a watchmaker, then certainly do have a look online about how to size these, because if you lose the little collar, then you're going to be a bit mad with yourself. So pretty standard Seiko affair really, but I want us to take a little closer look, if my camera can handle it, because yeah, it's a brush finish. Come on camera, help me out. Brush finish on the links, but a little bit of polish on those inner part of the links. Only a straight in link, but because of the squat lugs, it's kind of hidden by the end of the case there, so you don't notice there is no gap between case and bracelet. The lie is almost perfectly flat. It's got a really good articulation. Lots of people complain about a Monster bracelet. I don't really have a problem with it, to be honest. I think they're alright. Let's take a look at the crown. Unbranded, but it's got that nice kind of crosshatch knurling in it. Screw down obviously for the diver's 200 meter rating, and it's actually PVD coated inside as well, which is nice. Obviously hacking because of the movement in here, the 4R36, and it does screw down okay. It's a little gritty, admittedly it is a tiny little bit gritty, but it's got a fair action. And again, Seiko QC, your one might not be gritty, your one might be terrible, who knows. The case, well, the case is, it's dominated by the bezel really, isn't it? It's kind of, you don't notice the case when you look at a Monster, but there is thought put into it. It does have a very cohesive design. It continues that industrial feel, that bezel that dominates is incorporated into the case. It's really, really nice. You can see that the bezel gouges, cutouts, they continue onto the case. drilled lugs. Nice actual brushing on the case, but high polish on the cut out bits that marries into the high polish of the bezel. Come on, let's just align that. The fact that the shrouded parts of the case cover those straight end links. Talking of the shroud, about 10:30 to 1:30 on the north side of the watch, and about 7:30 through to 3:30-ish, that utilised as a crown guard protective shrouding. So, you know, if you are going to use this in a rigorous activity, it's going to hold up, it's protected. Focusing in on that dial, we've mentioned before that the movement is a 4:36, so we've got a day and date window framed nicely in white. We've got a, let's see if we can get in on that, we've got this kind of sloping concave cut out, pretty brutal rehort really, with the minute markings. But those cutouts, of course, house those mammoth shark tooth indexes that makes the Monster the Monster. Shout out to the Gen 2 Monster for the shark tooth indexes. They're amazing, they look fantastic. They've got that kind of aggressive underwater shark kraken look to them. I mean, this is a 200-meter diver, it is supposed to go underwater. And not only does it look cool, it means they're massive, and they are absolutely chock full of Lumibrite, and we'll check that out later. Also the handset, that's a legendary handset. That almost dorsal fin hour hand, and you can see the colour scheme is even carried through to the tip of the second hand. It's got an orange tip on there. It's got minimal printing. Again, shout out to minimal printing. Seiko Automatic Divers 200. It's got a, well, if it were a H. Moser, I guess we could call it a fume dial or a degradé dial, but let's just call it a smoky, faded orange to black dial, which, depending on the light, has a bit of a different look. I like it. It's nice. And of course, it being Seiko, it is all covered with a slightly single domed piece of Hardlex, which it is what it is. If you don't like it, you don't like it, but I've had this one for a few years and I think it might be box fresh. Let's get into the wear of the Monster. As you can see, it's there on my 7-inch wrist, and I'm going to say it now, the Seiko Monster has got the best fit, hands down, of any watch. I'm going to give a shout out to Random Rob. I'm sure you know his YouTube channel. It's a proper YouTube channel, not my poxy little thing that I do when I've got nothing better to do in my living room. He's got a proper channel, and I know Rob loves the Seiko Monster as well, even though he does, I worry about him flipping all those watches, buying and selling and rebuying. I'm not sure that's the best way to collect, but it is what it is. But I know he loves the Monsters. he always bangs on about them, and I love them too, and it wears an absolute treat. It's my favourite watch. The Seiko Monster Gen 2 Shark Tooth Index is my favourite watch. This one, with the PVD coating and that kind of overly orange, Halloween-y type colour scheme, is not my favourite. It isn't my favourite, but maybe one day I'll make a video of my little Monster collection that I have. You might know if you've seen other videos that I go abroad to work and I don't take all my watches with me. This is the only Monster I have with me. It's my favourite. The price on these Gen 2s is getting a bit of out of hand these days. This one, I mean, I only picked up a few years ago and it would cost me about 150 quid at the time, brand new. The prices are doubling and trebling. I've actually sold a few Monsters in my time just because the price had got so ridiculous. It certainly was the best entry-level dive watch. Whether we can still class them as entry-level because they're $500, $600, $700 now, I'm not sure, because of its rareness and limited availability. Having said that, if anyone's got a black dial Gen 2 SRP311, give me a shout. My email address is in the description. I'd love to add one of those to my collection. But having said that, style, durability, wear, Seiko Monster Gen 2, they're the best watches money can buy. Roshfooco Watches and Things with my favourite watch. And we're both out.